A key thing when you're looking at analogies is to try to determine the relationship between the word pairs. So here we have wood and fire. A great way to establish a relationship is to create a sentence, a short sentence that's going to explain how the two relate to each other. And so you might say, wood feeds a fire. That would be a way to establish the relationship. But now let's go look at this sample problem, and you have grass or farmer is to cow. Well, using the sentence that we've already created, wood feeds a fire, if we tried to plug in over here, we might say grass feeds a cow, or we might say farmer feeds a cow. And so both of those would actually fit the same sentence. So we have to dig a little deeper. And so what you want to do is fine-tune your sentence. So at first we had wood feeds a fire. Let's add to that, be more descriptive. In what way does wood feed a fire? Wood feeds a fire and is consumed by the fire. So over here we could say grass feeds the fire and grass feeds the cow and is consumed by the cow. That would be correct. Farmer feeds the cow and is consumed by the cow. That might lead to some mad cow disease, but that's not typically how it works. And so as you can see, you start with a sentence that connects the two words, creates the relationship. You fine-tune your sentence to dial it in and make it more exact, where it excludes the other answer choice and narrows it in on the one that's going to be correct, in this case, which would be grass.
A subject, along with a verb, completes a sentence. Every sentence must have a subject and a verb. So always be looking for the subject in a sentence because it has to be there somewhere. Look at this first example. Running is good for you. The verb right here is. So then what is the subject of this sentence? Well, the way you can find the subject is it's the person or thing that's doing the action in the sentence. So what is in this sentence? Running is. So running would be the subject. Okay, so think of another example, like he rode his bike. Okay, rode is the verb here. So again, you can just ask the question, who is riding here? Who is the person or the thing doing the action here? Well, the action is riding, so then who is riding? He is riding, so he would be the subject. Over here, she is cheerful. Okay, who is cheerful? She is cheerful, so she would be the subject. Now this is going to get a little bit more complicated now. She is cheerful, but her friend looks sad. So right here you see a verb, and then, okay, who is cheerful? She is cheerful. She is the one doing the action in the sentence, and that's being cheerful. So she is the subject. Now you look down here and you see another verb, looks. So what's the subject over here? Can there be two subjects in a sentence? There can. Because notice right here, but. But is what we call a conjunction because it joins two clauses together. So we have a sentence here and a sentence here, and but is joining them together to make them one. But if we have a sentence here and a sentence here being joined together by but, that means we must have two subjects and two verbs. So we found one subject and one verb, and then we found the other verb, so we're still looking for a subject. So what could the subject be? Could it be her looks sad? That wouldn't make sense, because remember, the subject is who or what is doing the action. So someone is looking sad in this sentence. Who is looking sad? The friend is looking sad, so friend is the subject over here. All right, like I said, every sentence has a subject and a verb, but you may come across some sentences like this. This sentence says, go to your room. So the verb here is go. So where is the subject in this sentence? Well, the subject is what we call an understood you. So we're going to put you in parentheses right there. So I say it's an understood you. Basically, it's understood that you is the subject of this sentence, so it doesn't even need to be included. So we could actually read this sentence as, you go to your room. But we don't always speak like that. Sometimes we leave the you out of the sentence so we just have a verb. But nevertheless, there still is a subject. It's just not included in the sentence. A suffix is a part of a word that is added onto the end of a root word and cannot stand alone. So many times in a word, you have a prefix, a root, and a suffix. And so the prefix, the root word, and the suffix all combine to make one word. Now sometimes you only have a root word, sometimes you just have a prefix and a root word, and sometimes you just have a root word and a suffix, and sometimes you really just have a prefix and a suffix. But you're never just going to find a prefix, and you're never just going to find a suffix. It has to be paired with something else. Now a suffix has a meaning of its own, and so it changes or enhances the meaning of the root word that it's added to, and so it forms a new word with a little bit of a different meaning. So we have the word happy. Now we also have a suffix, which is N-E-S-S. Now this line right here means that it's a suffix. If the line was after the word, it would mean that it's a prefix. But right here, this means it's a suffix, meaning the root word comes before it. So now if we combine happy and ness, we get the word happiness. And so we know what the root word means. We know what it means to be happy or joyful. But ness right here means the state of. So the suffix right here changes the meaning of happy to mean the state of being happy. So you can say that person is experiencing happiness. You wouldn't say they're experiencing happy, but you would say they're experiencing happiness. Now, think about the word geometric. You may not even be familiar with this word, but you're probably familiar with some of the parts of it. So we have geo, which is the prefix right here, and so that means earth. So I'm just going to write that right here. Geo means earth. And then we have this right here, M-E-T-R-I, which means the measure of. It's kind of similar to the word meter. And then we have the suffix IC, which means having to do with. So we can come up with a definition here that means having to do with measuring the earth, because we have these definitions of the parts of the word, so we combine it into one approximate definition. Now, if you were to look up this word in the dictionary, you would find that the dictionary definition is of or relating to the branch of mathematics that has to do with measuring points, lines, and angles. So by using the definitions of each section of the word, we weren't necessarily able to define exactly the definition of this, but we were able to get a general idea. Now, think about the word ophthalmology. So with this word right here, we have this first part of it, which comes from the word ophthalmos, which means eye. And then we have the suffix right here, which is ology, which you've probably heard of a lot. Zoology, ecology, geology. And ology means the study of. So again, we can come up with an approximate definition. So this must mean the study of the eye. And so an ophthalmologist is someone who studies the eye. And so it's a doctor who deals with eye problems and does eye surgeries. So if you just looked at ophthalmology and thought that's the study of the eye, you're not getting an exact definition what ophthalmology is, but you're getting an idea that it's the study of the eye and the problems with it. And so there's definitely going to be a more specific definition of it, but you're able to get a general idea of what it's talking about. Now, a couple of the suffixes we looked at here were ness, ick, and ology. And there are many more suffixes. And so if you're able to learn the meaning of some of the suffixes, then you can oftentimes just look at a word and figure out what it means. Another thing you can do, say, for example, like I said earlier, say you saw the word zoology. And so you don't necessarily know what this means. Say you don't know that ology means the study of. But you have heard of the word geology, and you know that means the study of the earth or of rocks. And so you can look at this right here and think, okay, ology must mean the study of, and I've heard of the word zoo, that's a place with a lot of animals, so zoology must mean the study of animals. So think about words that are like this word, think about words that have the same suffix, and think about the definitions of that word, and then that way you can figure out the definition of the word in question. So again, a suffix is a part of a word that is added onto the end of a root word and cannot stand alone. ACT, English sentence structure. The sentence is the basic unit of communication in English. Parts of speech identify the words which make up a sentence. So some examples of parts of speech are nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, pronouns, articles, interjections, prepositions, and conjunctions. So one group of words that we have is nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, and pronouns. Those words perform essential functions within a sentence. In addition to performing essential functions, they also provide content. So they give the sentence its content, which makes sense because you have the nouns and the pronouns, which act as subjects, and then you have your verbs, which obviously act as verbs in the sentence. In every sentence, you need a subject and a verb, which gives you the topic of the sentence, and then the verb tells more about that topic. And so you can understand how these parts of speech right here perform essential functions and provide content. And then we also have another group of words, or another group of parts of speech called the prepositions and conjunctions. And so those words connect sentences, and they connect one part to another. And when I talk about one part, I'm talking about one part of a sentence. So these prepositions and conjunctions can connect sentences to each other, and then within a sentence, they can connect one part, either one idea or one action, to another idea or action. Now, some words function only as one part of speech. However, many words can function as two or more parts of speech. Just depending on the context of the sentence, a word will be either one part of speech or another part of speech. And so that's a look at the different parts of speech in a sentence.
In this video, we want to go over prefixes. Prefixes are short little sections of words that come before the root of a word and help you understand what the word means. They add an extra nuance to the word. And why prefixes and suffixes, for that matter, are important, prefixes coming before the root of the word, suffixes, short little endings after the word, is that if you know your basic prefixes and suffixes, they help you determine the meaning of a word. And they're important clues, especially if you're taking a standardized test where they say we want you to find the word with the opposite meaning. Sometimes just knowing the prefix can give you enough of a clue, even if you don't know what the root means, to find the opposite. We've got a few examples on the board and we want to go through those briefly just to show you the importance of prefixes, how they can help you in your test-taking strategies, and how they can help you understand the meanings of words. So prefixes give clues as to a word's meaning. Knowing them can help you find the word with the opposite meaning on a test. So words like prefixes like pre. Here we think pre-operative, pre-op. That means before the operation. Or prescient. Pre meaning before, and scient from the word science, which means knowledge. So to know ahead of time. So prescient is to know ahead of time. Pre-game show, the part that comes before the game. So pre means before. The opposite of pre is post. Post-operative care, the care that happens after the operation. Post-game show, the show that happens after the game. So pre is before, post is after. If you realize this opposites, then if you see a word that's got a pre-prefix on it, then you look for a word with a post prefix on it if the test is asking you to find the opposite. Another thing would be pro and D. So pro means for, as in pro-life. Someone who is pro-life is for life. DE is the negation, so deconstruction. To deconstruct is the opposite of, or the negation of construction. Construction to build up, deconstruct to destroy. So pro meaning for, D is usually a negation, pre before, post after. Knowing your prefixes can be critical, especially if you're not sure of the whole word. You can say, well, let me break this word up into its prefix, its root, and its suffix, and see if I can't decode just from that minimal information the proper answer on the other side. Now, obviously, when you're taking a test, if you know the right answer, you always go with the right answer. But if you're struggling, if you're not sure, this is a strategy you can use. You can look at the word, break it down, and say, here's the prefix, and I know it means this, and I'm being asked to find the opposite. What's the opposite of this prefix? Then I've got my answer more than likely. Caution, though. Caution. Con and pro are opposites, but congress is not the opposite of progress, although some people might disagree. That's more of a joke in terms of Congress being the opposite of progress, but con and pro are opposites, but you have to know and be careful sometimes. Anyway, that's been just a basic introduction and overview of the importance of prefixes as a test-taking strategy of knowing what they mean to help you determine the meaning of a word, and also to assist you if you're being asked to look for the opposite. If you know what the prefix means and you know what the opposite of that prefix is, it makes it a snap to find the right answer. If you'd like to learn more about this or related matters, underneath this video you'll see a link. If you'll click on that link, it'll take you to the website that has that information. While you're on that website, you'll also find a link to an ebook that's ready for immediate download.
Understanding how words relate to each other can often add meaning to a passage. So it's important to understand synonyms and antonyms. Synonyms are words that mean the same thing, and antonyms are words that mean opposite things. So take, for example, the words dry and arid. Those words are synonyms because they pretty much mean the same thing. They have similar definitions. Now the words dry and wet are antonyms because they have opposite definitions. They mean the opposite thing. Now, consider these words, friendly and collegial. We would consider these words synonyms. However, they do have slightly different meanings. Friendly means more on an intimate setting, just a friendship, whereas collegial means something more of like an academic or business relationship. However, we still say these are synonyms even though they have slightly different definitions. Because if two words had exactly the same definition, then we wouldn't need two different words. So it stands to reason that synonyms are still going to have slightly different meanings. Now sometimes words are so different that they cannot be synonyms even though they are somewhat alike. Like consider the words hot and warm. We would say yes, these words are alike, but the definitions are different enough we wouldn't call them synonyms. So like take this sentence for example, he burned his hand on the hot stove. Now if we said that hot and warm were synonyms, then we could replace hot with warm, and the sentence would say he burned his hand on the warm stove. But that doesn't really make sense because you don't think of someone burning their hand on something that's warm. So as you can see, hot and warm mean similar things, but they are not synonyms because they are too different in meaning. So the important thing to take from this is that synonyms are words that have exact or similar meanings, and dry and wet are words that have opposite meanings.
When taking your exam, you'll probably be asked some questions that involve seeing the relationship between words, understanding that relationship, and then finding an answer that is similar. I'll give you an example. Artist is to paintbrush as, and then there'll be a series of answers down here. And when you get to those sorts of things, they seem fairly straightforward, but I want to give you a tip that will help you get it right more often than not and make a better educated guess if you're uncertain of the answer. So you begin with the first word and you figure out what type of word it is. An artist is a person. Paintbrush is an object. So as you're going through the answers, you're looking for a pair of words where the first one is a person and the second one is an object. Once again, if you understand what this relationship is and can identify them, then the answer becomes much easier to make an educated guess at if you're not absolutely certain of what the answer is. Obviously, if you know what the answer is, you always go with what you know. But if you're not sure, stop, take the time to break this down, and then look at the answers accordingly. So let's try another example. All right, in our example here, this is the beginning example. These are the possible answers. The beginning example says, gardener is to hedge as either wind or sculptor is to rock. So you might say, well, the gardener trims or cuts the hedge, or even cuts away the hedge. And by making that sentence, you've made a relationship between them, and you sort of understand what gardeners do to hedges. Now, when you come down, though, gardener takes away the hedge or cuts away the hedge, you might say, well, wind cuts away the rock. Well, that's the right answer, right? Because it's the same thing. Wind cuts away rock, but wait a minute. Sculptors also cut away rock. Oh no, it could be both. Which one am I going to do? Go back here to our original example. Gardener is a person, hedge, an object. Here we have wind, object, rock, object, but sculptor is a person. So if you're going to keep the relationship the same and you're uncertain, follow this pattern and it'll become very plain that B is the answer because it matches the original pattern. Gardener is a person, hedge is an object, sculptor is a person, rock is an object. So even though it's logical to talk about wind through erosion cutting away rock, to match the same relationship that they had in the original, you just come down here and find how it matches. Person to person, object to object. And hopefully this technique will help you out if you're looking at these word pairs and trying to understand the relationship between them. Make a sentence about it, but also identify what each one is. Person or an object, that sort of thing, and then find the answers below that match that same pattern. If you'd like to study more or learn more about this, I encourage you to visit the website linked beneath this video. There you'll find more information and an ebook ready for immediate download.